welcome back to another episode of my own personal experiment, which I call Casual Conversations with Me. Who am I? Carlz. Hello. The only show, as far as I know, where I take ideas that I did previously in Spanish and I take them back in English and give it an extra word or an extra, I don't know, experience, however you want to call it. This time it's a little bit special. Originally, this episode was inspired by my viewing of the latest Marvel Cinematic Universe movie, well, until then, right? Which was Captain America Brave New World. Of course, now we need to know by the historical context of all the things that have happened recently, most importantly with Thunderbolts, and it's really fast rebranding into the new Avengers, which is something to think about. I mean, it's worth almost its own reflection, right? How quickly the campaign turned into something else, how the whole spoiler thing is now non-existent, like, well, whatever. I haven't seen that movie, so that movie is not included in this list. There are only the 35 movies that came before that, so no shows, no anything, no shorts, just full feature films that belong canonically to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So, not only that movie, meaning Captain America Brave New World, made me kind of want to do this, but it also helped me between doing it in Spanish and rethinking it in English. It helped me rethink the tier list itself. It's a fun idea, right? You can do a tier list. Sometimes you think some things a little bit. Maybe you want to think them through a little bit more, like however you want to say it, right? Not only that, but it didn't help that the original tier list that I use in tiremaker.com somehow got erased. Who knows why? So I had to redo this one and like rebrand the tier from S, A, B, C. So this one had like amazing and that shit that I don't care for. So it had different posters. Sometimes they're too small, whatever. But as I was doing it, I already kind of like made into a concrete idea some of them that I wanted to change. So the one that is seen now, it's basically the one that I concluded during my Spanish episode. The thing about it is that I don't know. I think I was pretty kind of like proud is not the word, but I was pretty content with what I had back in the Spanish episode. Like, I really don't have any issues with it. But as I began looking at the movies, I think maybe I was being too rough with some of them. Maybe I was being too lenient. I don't know. So let's quickly go through the tiers and see if any of them change, and try to remember a little bit the main arguments that led me to put them in the different tiers, right? So let's go from A to like I just said bad. I think this one should be rebranded just Love and Thunder tier, right? There you go. So where's my thing? Here's my thing. So S tier. S tier, it remains almost the same. So let's quickly go through. Like Iron Man 1, I think it needs no introduction. If it's not the most important movie in the whole Marvel Cinematic Universe, I mean, it might not be the best, but it's certainly the most important one. To this day, I need to give like super extra props to how Iron Man 1 looks. I think I know I mentioned the Lord of the Rings a lot, but this movie always made me remember the Lord of the Rings because the mixture between CGI and practical effects is like so perfect. is so great that basically stands the test of time, which, curiously enough, is something that doesn't work the same way throughout the whole catalog of Marvel movies. The whole CGI and like general effects thing is so uneven between these movies that sometimes it's really even a little bit disturbing. But Iron Man 1 still stands the test of time. And it also gets a lot of, you can say, like, I don't know, like free passes for being the first. So if you see it now, it might look like too much of a generic origin story, right? Like maybe it's not too challenging. If you go into like the Iron Man lore, you might have like issues with Obadiah Stane, even though I don't, because he's the dude, right? There's a bunch of things you can pick up in the movie, but it's like just brief, to the point. I don't think it's 90 minutes, but it's not 4 hours. So it's just brief, to the point movie. It looks beautiful. It brought back practical effects. It brought back Robert Downey Jr. The music is awesome. The action sequences are great. Like basically Iron Man 1, even if you might find issues with it, I think it's pretty much a perfect movie in the context of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So the more I think about this movie, I always love it. I just love it. I just love it. So I find no issues with it being on S tier, and to this day nobody has told me anything that makes me change my mind. So it stays there. So I'm gonna leave Avengers 1 to the end, next to Infinity War, right? Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1, it's also kind of like the same. Not in the whole practical effects things, but like if you see the whole chronology of events throughout these Marvel movies, Guardians Volume 1 had the same spark as Iron Man 1 did. Like this really spark of brilliance and freshness and everything. Like whenever I think about Guardians in general, like since the three movies are like so tied up together, I've heard a lot of criticism about Guardians 1, like even since it came out to this day. I've heard of people that complain about it because it had too many tie-ins with what was to come, right? Which was the whole Infinity Gem saga. But honestly, I never saw it like that. I never saw any issues with Guardians of the Galaxy. It's such a unique movie. It's so funny. Like the characters are so well played. Like I think the only complaint that I had it in my Spanish episode, and I still hold that criticism. It's not directly related to the movie itself, but to the fact that it sort of hijacked the concept of Guardian of the Galaxies. Before this movie, nobody would, like the nerdiest of nerds, had any idea what Guardians of the Galaxy were, right? And after the movie, like this group of heroes sort of hijacked the whole concept for a long time. That might be something that bothers me a little bit, maybe, but it has nothing to do with the movie. The movie itself is so charismatic, it's so good, even though it has like a crisp rat in it. Like we didn't know back then that he would do the same like role in almost every movie he made. For many of us, he was either Star Lord or like the guy from Parks and Rec, right? He was like a one trick pony, I think that's the saying. But Guardians of the Galaxy remains one of the best movies the MCU has put out. Like just straight up, it's so unique. Even for that reason alone, it deserves to be an S. So Avengers 1 is the one that I've been coming back lately. Not necessarily related to whatever happened with Josh Whedon after the movie or whatever, right? But I keep coming back to Avengers 1 because even though it had many of the redeeming qualities of Iron Man 1, right? Like the practical effects and everything, the whole Avengers project, and to me it has always been S because, and I've been saying this since the day the movie came out, I never, as a comic fan, ever imagined that a movie like this would exist. And somehow we tend to forget that, seeing that there are like now 35 movies and like a million shows. I guess back then I never thought that movie would happen. But given that fact, with the as the years have gone by and like you've seen like the tropes being repeated one like a million times, the space lasers are like the generic bad guys and like everything, or like the conflict of the characters, like that thing always leads me to believe that this movie might not be an A, it might be better being a B. You know, like it's not simple hindsight of like, oh, these ideas or tropes are so generic, this might be a B. Like even back then it was true. So this movie I've always been debating, and I do the same with Infinity War, which I also put here on S, right? These are movies that are like so such a phenomenon, such a freak of nature in the what the whole history of not only cinema and like superhero or action cinema. These are like powerhouse movies that happen. I want to say they happen once in a lifetime, but since there are more of them coming up, I wonder how this is gonna be true at all. But regardless, both of these movies, I'm always tempted to push them a little bit down. I'm always tempted. Like Infinity War has like way too many plot lines sometimes. I don't like how separated it is from Endgame because they're like basically one movie cut in half. But it has the Infinity Stones, which is better. I don't really dig all of the special effects. Yeah, but even though I debate about pushing them back to B, as I said, the fact that they exist is such a freak of nature that I gotta give them props in S. And if I bring them lower from S, I think I will be forced to push some other ones up, which is something that I'm even more like I don't want to do it. I'm even more resistant to push some of other movies up. So for the sake of keeping balance, I think S tier would remain the same for me right now. So for A tier, I'm gonna begin with the easiest one, which always should remain there, right? Captain America Winter Soldier. It remains an A tier movie. It's just so fun, unique, such a contrast from the first Captain America, right? It has so much personality. It really do not borrow any like arguments, or it doesn't ask for any of the other movies to, let's say, lend it some like, I don't know, fantasy or like fiction. It's highly political, it's dark, it does something different with the character, it's well made, it has a lot of action. Like, it's a great movie. Most even more important than it being a good movie, it's a great sequel. Like, if you trace how these characters sometimes evolve from one to another, like what they did with Steve Rogers in particular, it was great. Even though I might not still like that they kill him, considering that in movies and live action shows they can go full comic and just go like, okay, now we're gonna bring him back. I mean, they could, but whatever. It's a great movie in the broad context of things, right? Dealing with Hydra, changing the character, is really well made, advancing the characters general lore or personality, challenging its values. It's a great movie. And it's fun. So the next A that I have no discussion whatsoever, let's put this one, why can't I take it? Let's take it here, is Ant-Man. Ant-Man is like a little brother to Guardians of the Galaxy, in a sense that it was such a fresh take on the character. As I say on my Spanish episode, I'm highly influenced by the fact that the whole Scott Lang thing on the comics back in that day, it really was like that, right? It had like a really humor. It was humor oriented. It was charismatic. Like it was lighthearted. Like it was just fresh. Sometimes I think about putting it on B just for the fact that it wasn't the original idea for the movie. The whole thing with the director and everything. But the movie is just so charismatic, and Paul Rudd is fantastic in it. Like it was just felt like a fresh breath of air when it came out, and it still remains. Like, no pun intended, just a small little movie, right? Dedicated to this one character, small character that it always has like bigger implications, but not directly. So it's not really constrained by it. Like it doesn't need to do what happened later with the same character in Quantum Mania, right? It didn't have to be a big thing. It has to do its own thing. Just heartfelt, family oriented, funny. The effects, though, the effects are always something that keeps coming to me. But here it's okay. So another Captain America. Captain America is like the king of A tier. Captain America Civil War had like a fun mixture of vibes, right? It was a little bit Winter Soldiery. It was a little bit Avengery because it had a ton of people in it. And I think in some ways or another it's better than the other Avengers, which somehow that's why they are like, especially Age of Ultron might be here on C. But Civil War, I think it was an honest attempt to try to do the comic storyline in a live action setting, and I think that's why I give it some props. The one thing that could bring this movie between A or B is that edge that the comics had. So if you want to compare it to the comics, as I said, it has way more edge and it's way more challenging. But you think about it a little bit, and they had to bring it down because these are not the comics, and that's not just like some weird oxymoron. Like, these are not the comics. I think I used that word. Okay, right, whatever. Like, the fact that this is not the comic means that it's smaller in scope, but they managed to do pretty well. And like, this is the movie that is completely focused on hero action, right? And I think for the dimensions that it could be, and for the adaptation of the more like extreme topics of the comic, still remains in A, even though it has too much fan service, and again the effects are not the best, and the whole thing like to introducing new characters such as Spider-Man like in a really tricky way, it still remains one of the best movies, only because it does what it wants in a really well like planned way. It deals with its bunch of characters pretty well, and of course, following Captain America First Avenger and Winter Soldier, it also advances the character forward, which is always something welcome, and something that happened with Steve Rogers a lot. So the other, like, which is a sure A, like in almost every, and you can start seeing a trend here, is Thor Ragnarok, right? Thor in particular is one of these heroes in the MCU that has had like way different approaches. Let's ignore let's ignore Love and Thunder, but between Thor, Dark World, and Ragnarok, it's like 3 different movies. It doesn't have the strength of character as Captain America does throughout these movies, right? It doesn't have like many of the aspects of Thor that you would like him to have in a movie. That being said, it basically means that Thor in the comics is this mythical character, right? And it brings a whole dimension with him. But in the movies, it seems so like apart from everything. You don't really see the whole Asgard reality, like pouring into the rest of the Marvel universe, right? So that's like a shortcoming, and it feels like a sort of Ant-Man-ish what they did with Ragnarok. But they brought Taika Waititi and when he's on top of his game, he's just so funny and so charismatic. So again, it was a really, really big fresh air, and it was a director playing properly with his toys. Like even if they don't go crazy in the whole Asgard thing, the balance they do with the other characters, the galactic and like fantasy elements of it, and of course the comedy, it's on point. It has like you can start seeing like a trend between like Guardians, Thor, Ant-Man, which are like the most charismatic side. But like an overall really well made movie, as I said, playing perfectly with its toys and like refreshing the character or the franchise rather than the character. So the next A's, like Captain America, the First Avenger, I think it's a solid A because it's such a proper movie. It's such a proper movie. I think it's almost on par with Iron Man 1 as a like a origin story. It sort of ticks all the boxes, like literally all the needed boxes to make a Captain America origin story. And why isn't it on S or B if it's so correct? Because I think they really did a good Captain America adaptation. What I mean with this is that he's not overly American, like he's not overly how can you say, like patriotic. They knew they were making something bigger than just America, and it shows in the character's origin story. So it's not on S because it's not as special as Iron Man, especially as it looks and how it plays in general. And it's not lower than B because it has some charisma. It has some charisma, and the way they portrayed the context of Captain America, I think it was really well made. So I really don't have anything more to say about the First Avenger. It's just such a proper movie. It's such a proper little movie. So Guardians Volume 2. This is one that I'm gonna bring down. So Guardians Volume 2 right now stands in A tier because Guardians 1 it's on S tier. My main issue with Guardians Volume 2 is that it feels the same as Guardians Volume 1. It's such a like a repeat of what happened in 1, right? There's not really so much freshness to it. It feels to me it had always been rehashed, even though it has like Ego the Living Planet, and not only that, I think there's some scenes they look really bad. Some jokes they seem like rehashed. So more than Guardians Volume 2, it feels like Guardian 1.5. Same themes, or no, same tone, like same characters. It really seems like it out of the mill movie. It has its emotional moments, which is something that James Gunn always does with this franchise. But I feel like it's not worth it. It's not a worth sequel to 1. So this is gonna be officially the first change. Guardians Volume 2 is coming down to B. Which leads me to Guardians Volume 3. Guardians Volume 3, I put it on A. It's not on S because it's not as unique as Volume 1, but it's fresher than Volume 2. Why would I keep it on A? I would basically keep it on A because, as I've said in many of these other movies, it's very unique. Volume 3 is very unique. As I said on my original version, basically Guardians Volume 3 feels like James Gunn, like love letter to these characters. So, and as that format of movie, it works perfectly. I try to look for like worse things about Volume 3, like that could make me bring it down. but I think it just have too much heart, and like I think I gotta respect the honesty of it. To be honest, well, so the last one I need to talk about on A is one that often people argue with me about, which is Iron Man 2. I think Iron Man 2 has many of the redeeming qualities of other movies on A, right? Advancing the character, like a decent fresh take on whatever the character did previously, and of course it has like the more common critics that I've heard is like, oh, the characters are little bit bland, and like the movie overall it's like a little bit bland. And I know I'm gonna say something that is really biased and it's something that is really me, but I have to say it. To me, Iron Man 2 will always be an A because the one thing that I always loved about Iron Man was the suits. And they show that a lot in the movie. It's part of the movie. Not only the suits, but like one of the main kind of like continuing storylines for the character is Tony Stark's like personal issues with his technology being leaked, and like how that triggers his sense of guilt and responsibility for whatever he feels about his tech. And all of that is in Iron Man 2. The movie itself might not be as good, it might not be as streamlined or well written, but it has the same balance with the practical effects, and it deals with character leading topics, and even more so, it does advance a little bit of the character, especially between his relationships inside the own character's universe, right? So I think I like that movie. It's not an S, but it wouldn't be a B. It wouldn't be a B because it has tiny special things about the character that are only present in Iron Man 2. Not even in Iron Man 3, which I'm gonna get there eventually, right? So to me, it stays on A. So let's go to B. Notwithstanding Volume 2, right? So I'm gonna talk first about the 3 Spider-Man movies. It's really hard for me to see them separately. What happened to me with Spider-Man movies in the MCU is I think that they were like so utilitarian in a way. I feel like the Spider-Man movies in the MCU are like such safe movies, really unchallenging, and like really even though, well, the last one is mostly fan service, right? Why they are in B and not lower? Because it's fucking Spider-Man, right? The subtitle for my C tier is that these are forgettable movies, and that happens for a reason, right? Because they are forgettable movies. They're like meh movies. Spider-Man it's never a meh movie, and it's never a meh character. So it's not higher because they really don't challenge the character with any of these movies. It's not higher because I don't think Peter Parker's portrayal in any of these movies is the best portrayal of Peter Parker. And it's not lower because, as I said, they do Spider-Man right. And when I say they do Spider-Man right, it's funny, it's lighthearted, it's action-packed. What I do not like about Spider-Man, particularly the last one, I hate that shit they do with the suit. By Spider-Man, what is the last one? Homecoming, Far From Home, No Way Home. By the last Spider-Man, they do that shit with the nano machine, nano suit, whatever. They do that so often, and I'm not really sick of it. I think it looks crappy. I really do think it looks crappy. So the last one is mostly fan service. I put them all 3 together, but like to be honest with you, I'm really inclined to lower them to C. Only because Spider-Man is such a big character. And he feels like a secondary character in these movies. So even though I put them on B because he's Spider-Man, I really feel inclined to lower them to C. I think action-wise, they are not so unique. Character-wise, they are not so unique either. Um, the franchise, as franchise, these three movies, they have depended so much on the other movies. The waste of the vulture in the first one, like it seems that Spider-Man should be more important, and it's not. Let's put it like that. So, let's talk about. Let's leave the controversial one for last. So let's talk about the Black Panther movies. Black Panther 1 and Wakanda Forever. There's just one big reason why Black Panther is not an A for me. One. And something that I thought that maybe I could get over it from the moment I did the Spanish version to this one. And I think Black Panther quality of CGI is so crappy. It's so bad. It's so bad that like I wanna get over it. I wanna get over it, and like it's a great portrayal of the character. They bring up the whole Wakanda culture. They mix it up with like a real African sort of like looks and ideas, whatever you wanna call it. Like it's really representative. It's really strong. Wakanda Forever. It brought to the spotlight so much discussion about an African character. Like it was important. But it's so fucking ugly. It's like I always remember like whenever I said to myself this past week I may bump this one to A. Whenever I thought about it, I thought about that scene that they not only they show it in the trailers, but it's like a prominent scene in the movie where he becomes like the Black Panther and he falls on top of a car and the car explodes or something like that, right? He does some shit like that with like some fancy acrobatics. And there is one thing that is always really clear with fancy acrobatics and CGI. They never look real. They never do. And that's some shit that also happened with Spider-Man a lot. Even though Tom Holland can do like some backflips and whatever, like who cares, right? I could do a backflip. I mean, if I tried. But the point is, like, one of the things that I can forget those random single scenes with bad CGI on Black Panther, but I cannot forgive or forget that the climax of the movie, the final fight in the movie, is so ugly. It's too ugly. I can't take it. Sorry, they ruin it. And a similar thing happened with Wakanda Forever. I think Wakanda Forever is a great movie because even though they lost what is his name? Chadwick Boseman. Even though they lost him, they really tried to, how can we reframe this into something relevant? The introduction of Namor, which is a character that I personally hate. It was super interesting, and Wakanda Forever is really loaded with lore and like world building, and like it's like an overloaded movie. And I think that's the main reason why it remains in B, even though it has also this representation and this really creative way of like refreshing the character. It suffers from similar things to Black Panther 1. I don't know why they chose to gave Black Panther like this, the worst sort of like a type of effect. Now, given that even Black Panther and Spider-Man, they suffer from the same, right? Like these are supposed to be acrobatic characters, and like I think Jackie Chan is too old to come to these movies and do backflips, even as a body double. So I think they're doomed to look sort of cheaty, right? I think they're just doomed to it, like doing some backflips and pirouettes, however you want to call them. But I think that the thing that keeps to me Wakanda Forever in B, Black Panther could be A, but like what keeps Wakanda Forever in B is that it shrinks at the end. I think it's so big, and then it shrinks at the end. Maybe I could put it on A only for Angela Bassett's performance. Could be, Could be like to do some justice to the whole thing. Could be. I mean, if she's not gonna get recognized by anyone but this random bald guy on the internet, might as well be me. So let's put it an A, right? So let's go a little bit quicker with the other ones. Particularly Captain Marvel, I think it should remain on B. My main arguments for it was it tried to do much in a little time, and it sort of went over like the main characterizations of the character. So it, of course, the fame of Captain Marvel was related to the volume that was going on by Kelly Sue DeConnick, right? Like, is Kelly Sue DeConnick? Is that her name? Yeah. So that comic was great, right? And I said this in my Spanish version, and it remains the same. It had a lot of time to develop a new character and bring Carol Danvers, the main character, to the present in a really fair, like, human way, and make it a great character who had a lot of power, but it belonged in a world where, even though she has too much power, it made sense, right? They didn't do that well in the movies, and they keep struggling with it to this day. And Captain Marvel is like this weird blip of superpowerness that it's like unrestrained. So it's weird. So the movie seems a little bit of self-serving. And again, the effects aren't that good. The humor is not that good. And just a mediocre movie. It's not forgettable because it's Captain Marvel, right? I think it was the first female-led movie in the bunch. So it still remains a little bit special. Like, even though, like, I keep forgetting that fucking Jude Law is in it. I think the whole universe doesn't do justice to the character, but the movie does decent work on it. So it remains on B. It's not as special, it's not as forgettable. Which is the same I can say about Hulk. If there's one movie we keep forgetting, is freaking Hulk with freaking Edward Norton, right? This movie is it is so forgettable, right? Like I mentioned in my Spanish version, and it's something that remains to this day. I think even though you may have a lot of issues with Ang Lee's Hulk, at least it was a unique experience. I think Incredible Hulk is super forgettable. It's super forgettable. It doesn't do much with the character. It doesn't look particularly good. Like, it doesn't advance any particular storyline. So it's sort of like a weird mixture between origin story and not origin story, because they did it before, right? Like, it's a weird movie. And above everything else, it's funny how the character Hulk developed itself way more outside of its own movie, which is sort of weird. So this is another movie that is changing. I put it in C, because the only reason it kept being in B, because it was a little bit unique, because it was the first one, and I keep remembering that's like the beginning of something. But being the beginning of something that doesn't go anywhere, it's not a good beginning at all, right? So, Thor: The Dark World, it's sort of universally considered to be a bad one. Why in my list it's on B and not lower? Because I think it has that uniqueness. It had like a similar uniqueness to Thor Ragnarok, but only shittier. Like, this is a unique take on the character. But what I liked is that it tried to expand, even though it might have failed. It tried to expand in the whole Asgard aspect of it, like to put the character inside his own lore and his own world. I make it work inside of it. I think that is a worthy thing to do, like the hammer. Like, it's a worthy thing to do with the character. And I know it's a little bit boring and like a little bit worthier, but I like to recognize those things. That's why I don't put it lower. I like to recognize that shit. And also, I'm a sucker for family narratives, and the whole thing with Loki. I think it's probably the best made in this movie out of all the Thor movies. So I'm gonna keep it in B. I have some love for the movie, I gotta say. So the last one on B that we have to discuss is Avengers Endgame. Um, I think Avengers Endgame is just a B because uh, after Infinity War, I feel like Endgame was just another movie. I mean, I'm not gonna say I knew exactly what was going to happen in it, but it was sort of like obvious. Like once we knew the synopsis about it, like the time travel shit. Like I think it was the movie that it had to be, and it relies way too much on the fan service side. So if we look at A and we see like sort of like the unique element that I have seen in it, the only unique element in Endgame itself is the fact that there's like a shit ton of people in it. That is the unique factor of Avengers Endgame. So it's not forgettable because you can't. It was that big of a deal. Many of these characters' last appearances. And it's not A because it has nothing unique about it. The uniqueness remained on Infinity War. It stayed there. Plus, some of the images in Endgame, they haven't really aged that well. Captain America fight with Thanos is cool though. Let's leave it at that. So, let's go to the Dear C, the forgettables. Let's put the ones that I moved here. They stay there. So let's talk about the two Doctor Stranges. My main issue with the two Doctor Stranges, and I give it the thought a little bit of a thought again this week, is that as I said with Thor, Doctor Strange is supposed to introduce an extra world into the narrative, right? Which is the magic side. So you have like Earth, you have Asgard, you have space, and you have the magic side. And the main thing with Doctor Strange's movies, and I think what makes them so forgettable, is that they didn't know how to add some relevance to the magic side of it. So if anyone is following the comics, the current One World Under Doom storyline in Marvel, it's directly related to magic and to the mantle of Sorcerer Supreme, right? I think neither of the Doctor Strange movies do that. There are like flashes of uniqueness in, I don't know, Benedict Cumberbatch's performance, right? The visuals are interesting. I think they rely way too much on the visuals, right? But especially Multiverse of Madness suffers something that became sort of like common in these movies at some point, which is how they overexploited the multiverse side of it. It's a strange thing. It gets old, even though in the comics they do it all the time. In the movies, it sort of feels old and like rehashed and like, I don't know. But that's why they are forgettable. They were supposed to be a big deal, but they just don't. Like if you see the latest thing in any sort of like cosmic Marvel thing, and you remember magic, you're not gonna remember that fucking Doctor Strange was in it. Like they really don't know how to do the character justice. Well, and in Multiverse of Madness, they killed the other big magician, which was Scarlet Witch, right? Well, as a Rivals player, I do like that they kill her, but like that's another topic. So these movies are forgettable. These movies are quite forgettable. Like they don't do justice to the character, even though they keep abusing the whole portal thing and everything. They are forgettable. They are forgettable movies because they are supposed to introduce you to a whole broader new world inside the Marvel universe, and they don't. They don't, sorry. So, let's move to Deadpool and Wolverine. Since this is my tier list, I gotta say I'm so fucked up. Like, I'm not fucked up. I'm so fed up with Deadpool. I think that it's an overused, overplayed character. It's predictable. It's I don't know. I think the whole like fan service, fourth wall breaking, like high school level joke. It's not enough for me. It's not enough for me. You can do comedy and like Guardians does it, or Ant-Man. Like I'm so fed up with Deadpool. Like I would put it lower, but the lowest tier is just so bad that it wouldn't belong there. So it's a perfect C. It's like a whatever movie. Like I don't care. It's unassuming. It doesn't. It's not a challenging movie. It doesn't do anything new. It's just a generic movie. A lot of fan service. Like the gore is so uh, gratuitous. Oh, that's a hard word to pronounce. The gore is like so I'm not gonna try it. It's a perfect C movie. Totally forgettable. Even though if it might have like moments like the Gambit movie, like if you like one of those things, even if those were special for you, you know they're gonna mean nothing. Like Jack and Squad, they're not gonna mean anything, which on itself shows how forgettable it is. Like as I said in my Spanish episode, fucking Cassandra Nova is in it, and it's probably not gonna be in any Marvel thing like in years. So complete C, perfect C. So I'm gonna leave this one to the to latest. So Shang-Chi, it's a C for the simple reason that this movie should have been special. It should have been more Asian oriented. It should have been more culturally relevant. Like it should have had more fucking kung fu. And also, it also looks super bad. Like this is one of these movies that looks really bad. Looks really bad. And I can't forgive it for like being so un-Asian, even though it has like a bunch of Asian performers in it. Dude, like Shang-Chi is the master of kung fu, and like he doesn't do anything. Maybe he throws one kick or whatever, but like he does all that shit with the rings, which like I don't care for. Like might as well be chopsticks. I don't get it. So Shang-Chi has like some good, interesting performances. Like Aquafina is good because she's good in almost anything she does. Like she's charismatic. The Canadian guy is also like good in it, but it's such an irrelevant movie. And I'm not saying like the Asian side of the Marvel universe should have been as important as the other ones, but it should have had some special in it. Which leads me directly to Black Widow. So good that they are like right next to each other. Knowing that it was going to be Scarlett Johansson's last performance, knowing that this character has such a deep and violent background, knowing all of that, this movie is just so bland. Just as Shang-Chi. It's good that they are together. I think these are movies that should have been special. And I'm not saying that in Black Widow she should have been like, I don't know, doing like violent and gore thing or whatever. Like, no, but it has nothing unique about it. The whole narratives about like family dynamics, they are a little bit there, but they are really, really undeveloped. As much as Shang-Chi's Asian representation, Black Widow's family dynamics are like barely misrepresented. So they're like forgettable movies. The one that is really forgettable is Ant-Man and the Wasp, but I might lower this one. And this is a big deal because, as I said, the movies in the lower strata or the lower tier, I really hate them. And why Ant-Man and the Wasp could be lowered? I mean, Quantumania is really bad. It might be unfair to put it there. And that is the only reason why I want to keep it in C. because it's not as terrible as the other ones, but it's really a nothing movie. It's another nothing movie. It's like it doesn't have the charisma of the previous ones. Like it doesn't do anything with the characters. The graphic quality is poor again. I keep debating about putting it down, but like, to be honest, the only thing that pushes Ant-Man and the Wasp to C and not to the bottom is that Quantum Mania is just that bad. So let's talk a little bit about Thor 1. That's another movie that gets a pass and gets the pass of being the first one. As I said, I give a lot of credit to The Dark World for being Asgard world building type of movie, which is something that Thor 1 sort of fails to do. It's too much about Thor being on Earth instead of Thor being like a god type, right? So that is it's a high contrast. But I think the main reason why I keep Thor in C, Thor 1, it's because as many of the other ones in C, it's such a bland movie. Like it's such a bland movie, like really doesn't do anything. I think they sort of like tried this idea of making it like the oldest Thor and like having a separate identity on Earth. I don't know. I wish these were reversed, and Thor 1 was more like world building than Thor 2. I really wish, but it's just like a funny nothing movie. Which leads me to Age of Ultron. Age of Ultron is one of those movies that I struggle a lot. I struggle a lot with Age of Ultron for the main reason that it's on the forgettable tier, because with all the honesty in the world, I keep forgetting this movie. I just do. I just keep forgetting this movie. It's something really strange. I just keep forgetting it. Like I don't have to do like any sort of like a constructed criticism about it, like, or like think about the characters or like the graphical qualities of its CGI or whatever. Like it's the C movie because I keep forgetting it. And I think in that sense, my brain is telling me something that like it's easier to retain, right? But if my brain keeps forgetting it, even though I've seen it like 4 or 5 times, and all I remember is that Ultron was in it, and it's mostly because the character's name is in the title. I guess it belongs in C. I can think of one thing to remember about it, and I can think about one thing to complain about it. Maybe the whole like made up country, maybe, or like the fact that Ultron is like such a forgettable character, even though it's really a relevant character, might be. But just keep forgetting it, so it belongs in the forgettable tier list. The forgettable tier, no tier list. That's correct. So, the one that started it all, Captain America: Brave New World. I didn't hate it. I thought it was okay. I thought it was forgettable. But I've decided to lower it. Why? Several reasons. First one, the movie doesn't do anything new with any of its characters, right? This is something that these are all reasons that would keep it in C. Doesn't do anything new with its characters. Doesn't move any plot forward, right? Visually doesn't challenge anything. So this could all be C arguments. Just forgettable movie, right? Like, who cares? It's gonna come and go. But one thing that really bothers me, it has been bothering me since I saw this movie and I made the Spanish version of this tier list. It bothers me so much that the bad guy is so lame. Like, it's something that kept growing in my brain. Like, so the leader even though it's not an A-tier villain in the comics, it's not so lame as here, man. Like one of the part of this revelation came with the when they released the honest trailer for Captain America, and they did this joke about, oh, the leader is one guy that knows probabilities, and I'm like, they're right. For some strange reason, they did it so the leader did not only did not have like a mind controlling powers, not only they didn't make him to be smart, but whatever he did to control other people was like manipulation and like this triggering sound, like some weird stuff. And all of his smarts were reduced to this weird like what did he say, like oh, I know this with a 70% probability chance, like some probability shit. And it's like it's a really bad character. And the Red Hulk is not the main villain. It's not the main villain here. It's the leader. And the leader doesn't do shit. Let me check on the chat. There's a big opinion before I forget it. Personal feel you are evaluating this a bit too much and the effect they have on the whole MCU, which is something might spoil the people to be felt, but I don't think every movie has to be serious and connected to the big and art. A lot of these movies are on their own. I say with that probably in mind because I don't really think below the same. So to me, that is something that needs to happen. These movies need to be evaluated in the context of the MCU for two main reasons. One, since they are not comic books, these movies should belong to a bigger universe. In the comics, even though you can have like a separate comic, there is always the possibility, which gives comics a little bit of an excitement factor. There's always the possibility that anything that happened in a comic can have an effect in another part of the universe. That's why they are called a universe, right? So in the movies, to me, it has always been a factor. Because not only it should be there to give these movies some excitement, or if something happened here, it might have some repercussions someplace else. Not only need to happen for that, but it needs to happen because otherwise these movies have no impact. It was what it was promised. You can ask for these movies to be a universe because they are selling to you as such. It's not me who created the concept of Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's not me, the dude that goes once a year to a big stage and shows this timeline with this roadmap with movies in it, and it's not me the one selling you the DVD box set that calls itself the Infinity Saga. It's not me offering and profiting out of this concept. It's them. So as a consumer and a spectator, it's completely fair for me to demand that I'm given what they are selling me. So there's these two aspects: the argumental one, which it should make the universe more alive if it's interconnected, and the second one is the straight up commercial one. They promised you a universe, so you might as well demand for it. That's it. So and I'm not. You expect a movie involving multiversal stuff to have an impact in the whole picture? I don't understand that sentence. You expect a movie involving multiversal stuff to have an impact in the whole picture on itself? I don't know. But if you clarify that, meanwhile, I'm going to talk about the bottom tier. So I'm going to talk about the bottom tier in a sort of a cohesive way. And I'm going to say the main reason why these movies, to me, they suck. So let's begin with Iron Man 3. Iron Man 3 sucks for one reason, and it's called the Mandarin. That is a joke that did not land, and it ruined the whole movie. Not only ruined the whole movie, but it stopped short the whole character. even though they brought up later like Tony Stark's and Pepper Potts' daughter and everything, like it stopped short the character. It seems that Tony Stark himself as a character after Iron Man 3 became this sort of like a glue in between the Avengers and everything. So he was always there, but he was never relevant as Tony Stark. He was just like, I'm Iron Man, bitch, clap, and that's it. And like, that's it. So it sort of killed the character. They knew they're going to kill him off, and making one of the biggest nemesis of the character, just making him a joke, like trying to bait you with a bunch of important concepts of the character, like the extremis virus and everything, and that technology, and the suits being destroyed. That is just bullshit. The bad guy is BS. The armors are BS so much that they destroy them all, even though they knew the character was going to be there. So they replaced the whole bunch of armor with some CGI thing that just keeps transforming. The main armor of the movie is shit. The Iron Patriot is shit. In the extremis is whatever. So that's Iron Man 3. Thor Love and Thunder. The main reason why the movie is trash is because, as I said in my Spanish version, and that is the same idea that I had the first time I watched this movie, is that I didn't laugh once. You can have a joke and a comedy that doesn't make you laugh. It feels like poorly made. It feels like uninspired. The jokes are bad. The visuals are poor. And lastly, it feels like Taika Waititi like just trying to redo Ragnarok again. So it's like between Guardians Volume 1 and Volume 2, like trying to do the same with half the effort. And finally, the storyline of Jane Foster becoming Thor was so good in the comics. It was so good. It was so engaging. Like, one of the characters that I never cared for in the comics was Thor, until they announced that a new Thor was going to come up, and she lasted way longer than you could have expected. And in the end, the big reveal of why Jane Foster became Thor was so great, and it happened through like a longer timeline and through so many stories and so many adventures. So in the comics it's so great, and in the movie they just use it to sell the movie. And as soon as Thor Love and Thunder ended, nobody remembers that Jane Foster was Thor for like a brief point of time. So the misuse of a really interesting storyline, jokes that do not land throughout the whole movie, and effects that are really not good, make this movie like bottom tier. Eternals. Eternals, the main reason why it's trash is because it really tried to be so much and ended up being so little. So it's a long talk to talk about the Eternals and like the whole celestial thing and like the balance of the universe or whatever. Like basically the Eternals created human beings, right? And there's a bunch of shit in it. So as soon as they announced Eternals, people were like, "Oh, let's make a really big deal about it." It's like it's supposed to be a big deal. And as I said before, with the little comment about the interconnected universe, how is it possible for you to have a movie about the creators of human beings and having it be so irrelevant? It was such a big idea with so many characters and so many aspirations, but they knew deep down, they knew they wouldn't reach anywhere even close to any Avengers or any sort of level like that. And that is the main thing about Eternals. And that's why, even though it might be a little bit boring, maybe a little bit longer, the characters are a little bit bland, the enemies are boring too, like just some random dogs, you can ask or like give any of those as reasons for this movie being bad, but the main reason is that it tried to be a big deal. It should have been a big deal, but it's not, and it never will, because of the mechanics of this MCU in general, and because the movie itself knew it, so it never reached or aspired any higher than that. So it remains trash. The Marvels. The Marvels is similar. A couple of things about it first. First, I think the movie looks terrible. For some reason, like that scene where like they go into this dance or whatever. Oh, I just noticed my Twitch chat is over. Sorry. For some reason, the whole part it was like some try of like, oh, let's try to explore some charismatic side about it. And to be honest, it does has some charismatic characters. Photon in the WandaVision does her thing. Miss Marvel in her series also does her thing. And to try to give a little bit more of humanity to Captain Marvel, it was also something that it was appreciated. But the movie again is so bland, and you can see some sort of like similarities between particularly Eternals, the Marvels, and Quantumania. It tried to do a big thing. Let's bring Miss Marvel to the big stage. Let's try to create the relationship between them. Let's try to create the relationship with Photon, even though we're gonna do it like in 5 minutes. It's a really compressed movie. It tries to do way too much, and of course, as often happens when you try to do so much, you end up like failing. And this movie does that. It's either forgettable or just bad. I put it on bad because I really love these characters, and like I can't put it in forgettable. It's like giving it a pass. It's like yeah, it's okay, but I can't give it a pass. I gotta be overly critic about it because they really need to do justice to these characters, and this movie doesn't. And finally, Quantumania. Woof. The main reason Quantumania is so bad is because it's so ugly. Quantumania, as I said, as Eternals and the Marvels did, tried to do this thing about introducing the quantum realm, which is something that they would use later in like certain occasions. And that's all good and dandy, but they completely forgot the charisma that began with Ant-Man 1. Quantumania sort of showed that the Wasp is a character that they really haven't done anything with it. So the Wasp in the comics, even though they're different characters, but Janet Van Dyne in the comics is a really fun character because she's like really important and like she's really consistent, and at the same time, even though she always have like smaller roles, she's always relevant. And the Wasp in the movies doesn't do anything. So everything got taken over by this desire of creating and introducing this quantum realm, which is, I mean, these are supposed to be character-led movies. So it's a really hard balance to do a character-based movie, move the character forward, introduce new things, and at the same time putting them into a bigger like universe or scope, right? So even though I might have criticized the ones that have no connection with it, you can also criticize these ones for trying to do too much and forgetting the main characters. You can blame them for that. You can do both sides of the coin, right? And it hurts even more when it's a character like Ant-Man, who was mostly charismatic, and like after Avengers, so much about being a father and having a family, and all of that just gets thrown into like a second subplot and taken over by like fucking Catwoman and like I don't know, Kang, and mostly the worst thing about it is that it looks so bad. I keep always remembering the climax of the movie and him like becoming giant and like he's supposed to be like some Godzilla type level creature and like destroying everything, and it looks so bad. It looks like a PlayStation 3 cutscene. It's like it's not good. Ultimately though, the main thing is that why it goes from forgettable to the bottom is that it's too forgettable. Even though it tries to do so much, and as I said before, it's related to the Marvels and Eternals. Even though it tries to do so much, it achieves nothing. And like nobody would fucking remember the quantum verse or whatever. Like nobody gives a shit. And I guess that's mostly it. One thing that I had like have to say like a sort of like a closing remark is that I still love Marvel and the movies and the characters and I still think like many other people that I've met that the MCU project died after Avengers Endgame. They haven't reached the cohesiveness of any sort of image or whatever about a universe. So just a bunch of loose random movies thinking like they could be something special on their own, and they end up borrowing a lot of, you could say, like hype, right? They end up borrowing a lot of hype and like a lot of like press from the fact that they do the MCU announcement and Comic-Con or whatever. Like they make such a big deal about it, but in the end, at best we can hope them to be just good movies. Given that, I'm really looking forward to watch Thunderbolts or the new Avengers, because I've heard that they managed to do that, to make a good movie on its own, but relevant to the rest of the universe. But these movies are here to stay. I really hope they lower the rhythm, they do less for more quality. So let's do one final look at the... I think there's one Guardians of the Galaxy movie missing. Nope. There's volume 1 on S, and there's volume 3 on A, and volume 2 in B. So that's what I have to say about it. I'm gonna keep watching the Marvel movies. I'm gonna be really selective. As a matter of fact, many of the latest movies, I haven't seen them until they were released on home formats, either digital or like any of that. Like what was the last Marvel movie that I actually paid to go to the cinemas? Endgame? Like this one, at the Marvels I went to the movies to see it. Iron Man 3 also. I think it was Endgame might have been. But whatever, like this is now a genre. It's gonna keep spawning movies. It's never gonna be as good as the comics because characters like Steve Rogers, they're really unlikely to come back. Now we hear that Thor it's going out, so like who knows? Many of these elements that make comics special, they are lost when they go to live action, and things that you're supposed to win when a comic turns live action, like performances, right? Human performances, or like the visual spectacle of watching something good that looks good and feels good, like Iron Man 1. So some things get lost in the comics. You cannot gain them back. You cannot win them back. You're never gonna get the rhythm, the explosiveness of the comics, the unpredictability. Is that a word? I think it is. Or the all of those elements of the comics, you're never gonna get them in the movies. So you can only hope that the elements of live action that are good, which is visual and performances, could give you some good movies. And I hope they do that with Thunderbolts. Is it around here? This tier list in particular, it has like a bunch of the other things Marvel IP related, even though they might not be about the MCU. But like series, I'm not watching anymore. Like I don't see what the fuck is this? It's a link shot. Oh, like that was the failed spin-off from Agents of Shield. Wow, I should do an episode on Agents of Shield. But whatever. Okay, I'm way over my time. These are my thoughts in these movies. Everybody's gonna have their own, of course. But since I'm the one talking, this is the one and only truth. Thank you, everything that listened here in the future and forever. And see you after Thunderbolts, I guess. Because at least movie-wise, I'm gonna keep watching. And if you like superheroes, you should do it too. Thank you as always. See you next time.